Hello, welcome to another episode of Balanced Act, where we look at both metaphysical and practical teachings and try to find the in-between road between both of them to the balanced path to your wellness. So today, what should we talk about today? Well, today we're going to talk about perception. So perception, I think, is incredibly important. It's probably the most important thing. There's an old cliche that perception is your reality, something I learned when I was a GameStop store manager. It was one of the favorite sayings of my district manager, Tom. He would always say that, perception is your reality. So what you perceive, what you think, is what you believe, and that is what's real to you. So there's this idea that I first learned from the metaphysical side of teachings, which was all that we see now is old news. So you look around your house, you look at your TV that you have, the car that's in your garage or in your parking lot. You look at all the stuff that you own, the husband or the wife that you're married to, the children you have, that's all old news. That's all manifestations that have already happened. So anything that you perceive has already happened. So essentially what we perceive as the present is technically the past. And what we are imagining in our future, the things that we truly desire that feel really, really good. And it's an interesting feeling when you think of something that you want that you may perceive as not having yet, but then it feels really good to think about that thing. That's actually your present being. That's your present energy vibe being. Now, if you think about something and it feels really bad, that's you actually blocking what is actually you. So if you think about having a lot of money, and then you put a but in there and you feel bad about not having a lot of money, that's you experiencing your present self. You just asked for, and then it is given to you, the very thing that you asked for in that moment. But then you block it by resistant thought. So therefore, you kind of hold yourself in place. That's that feeling of being stuck, is you putting resistant thought up to what you have just become. So that's a very metaphysical, heads in the clouds, woo-woo way of looking at things, right? Actually, it's not. And now this is only in theory as we go to the practical side, but if we look at science. I first heard it on a podcast, and then I looked up an article on it where there's a theory that the way our brains perceive things is always perceiving things in the past. So moment by moment by moment, what we perceive as the present technically is the past. So we are constantly always living in the past. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a citation for that, so you have to Google it yourself, but it's out there. And that's a real scientific theory. Not hypothesis, theory. So there's good science behind the fact that that's how we actually perceive things. Now, what's the exact mechanics of that? That I'm unsure about. If you want to go deeper into that, I do recommend that you do look it up. But as far as what I'm concerned, it seems as the more truths that come out spiritually, and these could be things we've known for thousands, tens of thousands of years. It seems that Indian culture really had a lot of things down packed. It seems that science starts to observe those things, even if it's sometimes in theory. Like, I was listening to this one podcast, and it was this young lady talking about how weird the moon is, how the moon is so perfectly apart from the sun, and so perfectly apart from the earth, that if it wasn't the size that it is, it's an abnormal size for a moon in comparison to a planet. It's very large, almost too large. It's this perfect distance from the sun where it can fit over the sun. It seems to be the same size. Like it used to have, perfect eclipses. It seems to be the same size from the sun. So it's a perfect distance from Earth. Also the perfect distance from the sun in order to create that illusion that they're the same size. And then that also allows for life, because then that allows for our tides to act a certain way, our gravitational pull on the Earth, and then also our platonics. It affects our platonics in a certain way where without it, life might not be possible. This is pretty crazy. Now, granted, too, she also went on to say that, and this is a fact I already knew, that the moon, I think, believes moves like about an average of an inch away from the Earth every year. So eventually, it won't have that perfect alignment. But we're talking about billions and billions of years from now. But it won't have that perfect alignment with the sun, perfect distance alignment between the sun and the Earth to have that perfect eclipse. So, but I digress. It certainly has been perfect enough for millions and millions of years to allow Earth to exist on this planet. So perhaps it has done its job already, and now it moves away from us eventually. As well, have to eventually move away from this planet, this solar system, because eventually our sun will die. So yeah, there's that. But nonetheless, this idea that something I learned in the metaphysical was then shown to be true on the practical. This is why I started this channel, because so many things that were taught on what you could say is on the left side of belief, which is probably more metaphysical, more religious, more stuff that you can't really just taste, touch, see, and smell, stuff you can't prove with your five senses, versus the practical, which is the stuff you can prove, the stuff that you can see, the stuff that, I do this and it results in that. Just having that balanced view, I think, is so important, because without it, I think we're missing something. I think there's a beautiful road in between that you can learn. So that's why I like to look at the extremes in my previous videos. Like I talked a lot about Abraham Hicks in my previous videos, also David Goggins, because when you look at the extremes of something, you often find the balanced view in between. And that goes for politics, that goes for anything, health. As much as I love to drink a smoothie in the morning, I love a nice IPA with friends in the evening. I think it's just having a balanced view of life is with true enjoyment of it. And, we love to be stimulated in that way. But not to get too far off subject. Your perception also can be controlled. You see, when we first initially get here as human beings, we aren't really controlling our perception. Like, we are controlling what we're looking at, but we are learning what interests and disinterests us as well. So we're learning a lot, we're experiencing everything. We're taking in what's good, what's bad, we're defining things. There are people around us helping us to define things. And then eventually, around maybe 3-4 years old, we form our own idea of ourselves. And then around 5 or 6, even up to about 9 years old, you really start to define the world for yourself. That's a dog, that's a cat, that's a bird, that's a mouse, all that kind of stuff. I'm this and you're that, but then that perception can be automatic, and then we can carry those perceptions that we build at like 10 years old throughout the rest of our lives. So sometimes the challenge as an adult is that if you formed a perception and a programming that's now harming you, how do you turn that around? And those usually come through trauma. Gabby Bernstein, another beautiful, brilliant teacher that I follow, she teaches about this idea of, trauma with a big T and trauma with a little t. So we all experience trauma. And, the worst thing that happens to you is the worst thing that happens to you. So, like I said in my previous video, you could have something as simple as not getting bacon on your bacon burger at, McDonald's or something like that. And a real life thing that happened where a few years ago, a woman shot at, and she was at Burger King. They literally didn't put bacon on a bacon burger. And so she thought she was validated to shoot at the restaurant attendees. I'm laughing because it's so ridiculous, but it's not ridiculous. Fortunately, nobody died. But she had a gun, firearm, and she shot into the drive-through window because they failed to put bacon on a bacon burger. So that might have been one of the worst things that's ever happened to that woman, if she felt the need to do that. Or maybe that was the last straw on the camel's back that broke the camel's back in her case. But wow, what a petty thing to have break your back, from my perspective at least, but not from hers. Or you can have something horrible as having a loved one killed in front of you. I had heard the experience of a man who, he was a criminal, and they were interviewing him and seeing how he ended up becoming such a hard criminal. I think he was a pedophile at that. And he talked about how he had, I think it was a brother or a cousin that he was absolutely in love with, and they're about the same age. And, he got along with them great. And he said that they were having a conversation with someone, and then this person had a problem with his cousin or his brother, pulled out a gun, and I think it was a shotgun, and shot his brother or cousin's head off in front of him. He said he remembers hearing the pop of the head, like the head exploded, and he was standing right next to him and heard the head exploding, and he was describing it so calmly and coolly, so you could tell that obviously, as it would to anyone, utterly broke him as a human, and he went on to hurt others. So whether it's simple as that, you have not bacon on your burger, or if it's as complex and horrible and obviously objectively as horrible as having your cousin's head blown off in front of you. The worst thing that's happened to you is the worst thing that's happened to you. Okay, now both people have decided that the trauma they went through was so bad that they were validated in hurting others because they were so hurt. But the things that happened to them were extremely far apart on the spectrum, I think, of what's really, really horrible and traumatic. But nonetheless, it equaled out to the same result because from their perception, those were about the worst things that's ever happened to them. So perception is key. So how can this help us out on our day-to-day? Well, one thing I do with helping my perception is that I accept the fact that everything that I have now is old news. I don't focus on the present or the past, so to speak. All our power is in the moment, in the present moment. But it's really the present moment. If everything I'm perceiving with my eyes, hearing with my ears, tasting my mouth, smelling with my nose, touching my fingertips, and my brain is perceiving it, then I'm actually perceiving the past, then what's the present? But the presents obviously have to be what I'm perceiving up here in my mind's eye. So that's what I accept as the present, whether I'm right, whether I'm wrong. I perceive what I want and I perceive what feels good. So what does that mean? So what that means for me is pretty simple. What do I want? So as I'm here on earth and I'm sorting through contrasting experiences and I'm experiencing something I don't want. So it's like being at a buffet. So you go to a buffet, right? And you pick something out that's brand new out of the buffet that looks interesting. And you taste it and it looks good, but it tastes horrible. But what do? You don't finish eating it. You leave it off to the side, right? Or you at least, maybe you eat a little bit of it, you finish it off, you don't want to waste food, but you don't go back and get more, do you? But this is what a lot of us do in our day-to-day lives. We experience something we don't like, we complain about it, and then we talk about it more, we talk about it with other people, and then what happens is the universe brings us more of that because we're focused on it, plain and simple. If you focus on the lack of money, then you're going to have less and less money. You focus on the lack of a great relationship, then you're just going to not get into a relationship, or at least a good relationship. But if you notice that you don't have enough money and you tell yourself, I want more money, then you imagine yourself having more money. You imagine a good feeling of being able to pay your bills off without thinking about them. Everything's on auto pay. Take your girlfriend out for dinner, for lunch, at a beautiful restaurant, and just feeling that feeling of relaxed without being in that moment. And then you just think about that. And then you maybe even pretend in your head that you're driving down the street. Instead of driving your Hyundai, you're driving Porsche 911. That's what I want. So now that can start to happen for you. An example of my personal life, I have a great friend named Zach, and he's a spiritual practitioner as well. And I imagined him and I both being multimillionaires. And I said, what if we had millions of billions of dollars? What would we do? And I said, well, we'll probably just hang out, chill, have fun, do our thing, relax, and build up our companies. And so out of nowhere, Zach and I have become closer and closer friends. And now we're doing just that. He has this great company idea of Energy Vibes. And I have Balanced Act and also have JRU Productions. And we're helping each other. We hung out last night and was helping each other with our ideas. And I was helping him out with Energy Vibes. I was creating a logo for him. We filmed him dancing outside. All this is starting to happen. And I attribute a lot of it towards me open myself up to the idea that that can happen. And then it manifests in my life. So you see, now this is metaphysical obviously, but what's in your imagination, what you can see, what you desire, that's what's real. As long as it feels good to you, it comes to you. But also, the negativity in your life, the things that you feel are negative in your life, and you focus on that, that also is real and that'll come to you. So you have to make a decision. Do I want to perceive the goodness of what's to come or the badness of what is? And as I focus on the badness of what is, that also ends up what is to come. So think about that. Think about how you perceive your life every day. When you wake up in the morning, you go through your day through the afternoon and goes into the evening. How are you perceiving your day? And challenge yourself. Can I perceive it better? Thank you, folks. That's it for this week. Thank you for coming to Balanced Act. May you find the correct path for you.